All right, here we go with another fancy and exciting week of our market builders versus market destroyers discussion. In the last few weeks, we've talked about quality and service, talked about price and value. Now let's talk about reality and image. Last week, we talked a lot about quality and service and how market destroyers tend to ruin markets by stripping value from products. This week, I want to take a brief look at how market destroyers ruin markets by misdirection. Few people would discount the value of authenticity in a relationship. Whether it's a family member, a friend, or a business associate, everyone wants to know that they can trust the other guy. A market builder is someone who consistently presents himself or herself with integrity, taking responsibility for faults and upholding responsibilities. A market destroyer misrepresents himself and his product, attempting to imply value where there is none. How does this play out in the real world? Well, everybody's heard the story about some guy who bought the coolest used car on the lot. The deal was just too good to be true. Car looked great. Salesman was so nice. The price was unbelievable. So he bought the car, drove away, and then the whole world fell apart. As most of these stories go, it cost the new owner 3 times what a good used car would have cost just to keep his lemon on the road. What went wrong with this transaction? In this case, the buyer trusted the wrong salesman. The market destroyer that sold the car didn't really care if the buyer got any value from the transaction. He was only interested in making sure that the check cleared. After all, in his world, there's always another potential customer, and he can always change the name on his lot or move to find people who don't know he's a crook. P.T. Barnum really summed this all up when he said there's a sucker born every minute. By the way, how much money is there in the circus business these days? Apparently Barnum made a lot of money quick and destroyed the market in the process. He didn't really innovate to keep up with trends in entertainment. Well, for me, there's so many of these guys out there selling cars like that I've never and will never buy a used car off of a lot. I've had pretty good success in dealing one-on-one with private party sellers. That's not to imply that private party sellers are never crooks. I've walked away from deals that looked too good to be true, just because they looked too good to be true. I'll never know if I was right about those deals, but I didn't get burned either. The key is that I sensed, for whatever reason, that there was something wrong with the representation of value in the deal. The guy trying to sell the car was trying too hard to convince me that I would be paying way below what the car was actually worth. I'm not a car guy. I don't claim to be. I drive a 12-year-old minivan. But I do look into things before I buy, and I know what a good specimen of whatever product I am buying is worth. If both my research and the seller are telling me that something is worth $10,000, but they're selling it at $6,000, then I can be pretty sure that the particular specimen that they have in mind is worth no more than $6,000. No one who's honest goes into a business deal to lose money or to give away value. How does this apply to our industry? Well, every fence guy knows that it costs a set amount to field a crew. Most fence guys have some idea what they should charge for a particular fence. And some fence guys are willing to underbid and undercut their competition just to get the job. Those are the guys that don't understand value. They'll get the job at a ridiculously low bid, then scramble to find the lowest price on materials so they can make a buck instead of losing their shirt. What they don't realize is they gave the shirt away with their bid. They're just not willing to part with it. In upcoming sessions, we're going to focus on knowing overhead costs and how to analyze a deal for value, and how these are sound market-building principles. In this session, I'm focusing on how to honestly represent your business and the value you provide in a competitive environment. so that even price-sensitive customers will recognize that the lowest price isn't the best price. Why do I keep harping on best price? Because best price includes the concept of value. Without the factor of value, there is no price low enough to make a deal worth doing. Why buy an item that has no inherent value, or one that has a value below what was paid for it? You're just giving away value. In this case, you're giving away money while getting less than nothing in return. We've established in prior sessions that selling an inferior product ends up costing you more than paying for a quality product, once you figure in callbacks, replacement costs, and the much harder to measure loss of customer satisfaction that occurs when inferior products fail. Among the key factors that identify a market builder is the desire to serve his customer. You'll notice this kind of businessman. He'll stand out among his peers. He'll have a professional appearance. He'll sound like he knows what he's talking about, and he will be able to demonstrate that he knows what he's talking about when you ask simple questions about cost of materials, availability of materials, when can you start, who's going to be on the crew, what are the hours that they work. For the market destroyer, none of those answers to those questions is important. To the market destroyer, what's important is convincing the customer to give him the check and getting the check to the bank. To the market builder, customer service is important. So he's going to be able to tell that customer, I've got a crew of 3 guys that'll start at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, and they'll be driving our truck with our name put on the side of it. The crew leader will come to your door and invite you to walk the job with him before he starts. And the customer knows that he's getting a professional job done. Here in our world, we've tried to show our professionalism by moving toward branded emails that have a consistent look among customer service reps. We want our customers to know that when they get an email from us, they're communicating with an organization that has taken care to have a consistent corporate image. You can hear it in the way the phone is answered. How many times have you called what you thought was a business number and had somebody pick up and just wait for you to start talking? How many times have you gotten the impression that you were an unwelcome interruption in an otherwise disappointing day? And does that sort of response inspire confidence in you about the service that you'd receive in doing business with that company? In the fence business, that means showing up on time at the job site with the necessary tools, materials, and personnel to do the job, preferably wearing work uniforms that identify you as a representative of the business you work for. It lets the customer know that you're a professional and you care about detail. A market destroyer is first going to sell the job to the customer and then hand it off to whoever's going to do the job for the least amount of money. That crew might show up on time. They may have what they need to build a passable fence. And if you're really, really lucky, they might even clean up after themselves when they leave. Of course, the minute they leave, the clock starts ticking toward the moment that the customer inevitably regrets buying the cheapest fence he could find. Unfortunately for the market builder, the customer will often then assume that all fence guys are alike. He was just lucky he didn't shell out more for the piece of junk he bought. If we're going to build markets through the fence business, we must educate the customer that there is a huge difference between price and value, and that the lowest price is therefore not the best price. The best way to do that is to maintain our integrity and consistently provide value to every contact. Notice I said We need to consistently provide value to every contact. I didn't say to every customer. We are not going to sell to every single person we talk to. A market destroyer might. He might be able to find a way to chip his price down low enough to sell 100% of the jobs that he quotes. A market builder isn't in the business simply to sell product. We're building the market by spreading the information around, spreading the education around, offering service as it's needed, not selling stuff that isn't. In the end, the customer, ultimately the entire market, suffers the consequences when a market destroyer cuts the corners he cuts and sacrifices what quality he must in order to get his sale. The fence industry suffers when customers begin to badmouth fence contractors because it always goes from a specific bad apple to a general blanket statement about fence contractors. A market builder is someone who cultivates, who teaches, who encourages those around him. He's not successful because he sells. He sells because he's successful. That's an important distinction. He's not successful because he sells. He sells because he is successful. People want to buy from him because they see he knows what he's doing, he knows what he's talking about. That's where we're going to leave off today. Our next session is going to be about becoming successful in order to succeed. Any questions about today? All right. Well, we'll be back next week. Thanks.